So one of the most important things to consider when breeding dogs is your health testing. So a lot of people say, oh, my vet's checked my dog over and says they're fine and it runs around and it's active, and that doesn't really count as a health test. Most young dogs will be active unless they have a really serious health complication, such as really severe hip dysplasia or something like that. But most young dogs are going to run around and be active. So you can't really judge the quality of your breeding stock on how they physically act as youngsters and how just a general vet check lets you know how they act. So Toki here is 8 years old, and for an 8-year-old dog, she's incredibly healthy, robust. As you can see, she has zero problem running around chasing her ball. She happily keeps up with the youngsters, shows no signs of really slowing down. She's a little bit more lazy now at this age, but who isn't when they're middle-aged? But she's certainly plenty healthy and physically robust. Now, obviously I know that now that she's an 8-year-old dog and that she doesn't really have any health complaints at all, but as a 2-year-old or an 18-month-old, you can't judge how a dog is going to be for the rest of its life on its legs and things like that just from a vet checking how it acts. You have to go and get them properly tested. So first and skeletally, you're looking at hip and elbow tests, so the BVA scores, or you go over obviously to America and you've got the OFAs and things like that, and obviously there's another scheme in Europe as well. So that will test the quality of the joints, how well they're formed, and how they will potentially degrade as they get older or not, depending on how healthy they are. Obviously then you also have your DNA test. Now DNA testing is important for another reason. It's because there's things that your dog can carry in its genetic code that may not affect your dog, but if it's bred to another dog that carries that same gene, you suddenly get puppies that have illnesses that are debilitating for the whole of their life. Things like degenerative myelopathy and pituitary dwarfism. So you could have a dog that carries one of these faulty genes and it'll never show any symptoms. Live a normal, happy, healthy life. Good girl, give. But you breed it to another dog that carries one of these faulty genes, and all of a sudden you have puppies that have a very significant chance of having the full faulty gene, and they do get affected by these illnesses and they do cause lifelong debilitation. So degenerative myelopathy, for example, causes the spinal cord to break down and the connections between the spine and the nervous system and the back legs, and this is where you get German Shepherds going off their back legs and things like that. Pituitary dwarfism obviously is a genetic mutation that causes dwarfism in dogs. Some of those dogs can go on to have reasonably decent healthy lives, but the majority of them will have a lot of issues with their health because of it. So it's really, really important to get the DNA testing things done as well. And there's plenty of options out there. Obviously Embark's a great one. Zeus, what are you doing, you idiot? And then lastly, you've got your eye tests. Now your eye tests obviously look at things like cataracts and any deformities in the shapes of their eyes and the lenses and things like that. And obviously that's important as well, because the last thing you want is your dog to go prematurely blind. It's pretty heartbreaking, especially when it's something that's preventable. So that's another one that's very important to check for. Again, in the UK we have the BVA and various other countries have their own tests. So it's really important to make sure that you get your dog assessed before you think of breeding them, because the last thing you need to do is to be bringing into the world puppies that aren't going to have a really good quality of life. There are enough dogs out there with health problems, there are enough dogs out there and breeds out there with genetic disorders already. With the Lupines, because we are trying to create a new breed and a really healthy breed, the last thing we want to do is start introducing health problems this early on. And the way we prevent that is by making sure that we're testing and keeping on top of any new genes that pop up that may be linked to illnesses, and obviously catching things early. That's going to be the prime way of keeping things nice and healthy long term. Zeus, come here please. Come on. Come. Obviously there's also the temperament tests as well, which are very important. Whoa, steady, steady. Don't crash into me, you muppet. Got no brakes. And we're going to talk about those in another video. But making sure you have healthy foundation stock for your breeding is one of the most important things you can do when you're thinking about breeding your dogs. And that goes for any breed, but especially for our Lupines.